Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name is VinPF, and on today's episode we're going to be checking out another Heroes Heretics bottle. Heroes Heretics sent this bottle over for me for it to review, so looking forward to jumping in on this one itself. Here we have a Stateside, which is actually one of their brands that I haven't covered before. This is the second iteration from their Stateside. The first one was a George Dickel, which I did try and it was lovely, just didn't manage to get it on the channel. This one here is a Heaven Hill 11-year-old, which is pretty cool in itself. Now, I'm talking to kind of UK-based people here because you guys who watch me in the US, you'll probably be able to get stuff like this quite easily. For us over in the UK, it's not so easy to get kind of single-barrel Heaven Hills. They do come across every now and again. Kind of big players in the independent bottling worlds will release stuff, but you know, for instance, right now I had a look on some good websites, and there's only really a handful of bottles available. This one included. Now, the other thing to note about this particular brand, the Stateside. Obviously, this is all going to be American whiskies. It's the same name as the previous one, but the label is different. I'll bring this one up to you. This one has got the Golden Gate Bridge on it, but the previous one did not. It just had the American flag. Now, they've put on the label here, truly American whiskey. They don't say bourbon. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that's just a good way of, I guess, covering themselves, because they might not always do something that is a bourbon. They might want to cover some stuff that's just American whiskey that isn't rated as a bourbon. Now, the other thing to note about this, we don't actually know if it is a bourbon or not, although you can kind of say that it probably is. We'll go through that in just a second. They've labelled it, to me, I got in touch with them and they got in touch back saying that this is probably labelled as a corn whiskey. Now, if you look at Heaven Hill's mash bills, they do 6 different mash bills of different amounts for each thing that goes in there. The 3 that are kind of corn prevalent, corn led, are the bourbon mash bill, the wheated bourbon mash bill, and finally the corn whiskey mash bill. Now, you discount things like their malt whiskey because that's going to be prevalent of malted barley, their rye because that's sort of prevalent of rye. If we're taking it based on that this is a corn whiskey, we're looking at those 3. Now, before I get into my tasting notes on this, obviously, I'm just going to discount these so you kind of know where I'm coming from. Personally, I get quite a good amount of rye notes from this. Rather than what I would typically expect to get from a wheated bourbon. So discount the wheated bourbon, and if you look at the different mash bills here, you can see what's left is the difference of like 2% between corn and rye. So to be honest with you, they both can be counted as bourbons because they meet the criteria for that. And because of the 2% difference, I don't think there's much point in worrying about which one it is and which one it isn't. That's just my opinion. So yeah, it's somewhere around that 78-80% corn, we think. Now, of course, because this is American whiskey, we can pretty much go with the facts that it's natural coloured, of course. They say non-chill filtered on the label as well, which is lovely to see. It is a single barrel and it's presented at 51%. It's going for £75 on their website. I'm not sure where else you can get this from. You can go in the description below and check out the Heroes and Heretics website. That isn't affiliate links or anything like that, so that's nothing to do with supporting the channel. Just hit those links if you want to grab hold of this. I think we've whittled on enough about what's on the outside of the bottle. Let's have a look at what's inside the bottle. Now, because we know it's natural coloured, I don't mind talking about this. It's 11 years old, so it's got a good oaky colour on it. We like that sort of thing. Let's get onto the nose and see what we've got. Now, I'm a big fan of bourbon at the moment, and generally all American whiskies, big, bold flavours. That's kind of what I'm after. And this is hitting those notes for me straight away. It's got an oakiness and a sweetness about it. There's that kind of sweet corn kind of vibe. Not like sweet corn, but like sweet corn. And bags of red berries on this thing as well. Really oaky and kind of leathery almost at the back end. Let's get onto the palate. Now for me, it's quite immediately a lot of peppery spice. There's a kind of like a juicy cherry vibe about this as well. Sometimes we talk about dried fruits. It's very juicy with those like cherry drops almost. And then it kind of mixes in with a bit of dark chocolate. I want to say the word decadent. That's something I don't really pull out very often. It seems quite decadent to me, which is lovely. We like that sort of thing. The finish is absolutely humongous. It's long and peppery. Those sweet cherries, those juicy cherries turn into like almost sour cherries towards the back end, which isn't a bad thing at all. We love that sort of thing here. One more sip. Really, really tasty. Now, obviously you can pick this up for 75 quid. Again, the Americans who are watching, you'll definitely be able to get stuff like this over there. So really, this is kind of a treat for the UK people, because we don't see this sort of stuff very often. The only downside of this thing is that it's going to go really quickly. I'm going to be really careful with this bottle because it isn't cheap, but it's good value. That's the long and short of it. It fits in well with all of the other kind of Heaven Hills that you might see over here, presented in such a way. And it's really kind of dangerously sippable. So something like this is going to have to go at the back of my cabinet to keep me away from it. Otherwise, I'm going to drain this bottle too quickly.